the 2024 NBA Draft Lottery is this Sunday. So, for a little bit of fun in this video, I wanted to give my NBA Draft Lottery predictions. No, I don't have the script. Adam Silver didn't send me an email with any of the information ahead of time on who's getting what pick. We don't have a David Stern situation going on here with a frozen envelope. These are just my predictions. This is meant to be more of a fun, lighthearted video. Obviously, most of the videos on the channel are very analysis-based and deep dives into prospects and players and what's going on around the league. This video is just meant to be some fun, and I want you guys to have fun along with me here in our video preview. This is purely good vibes. That's all I'm looking for in this video. Let's bring some good vibes and good energy to the comment section. Now, remember, this is who I feel may have the top 4 picks in the 2024 NBA Draft. If you guys remember my lottery predictions last year, I accurately predicted the San Antonio Spurs to land the first overall pick, which of course delivered them Victor Wembanyama. Now this year, I didn't have quite the gut feeling I did last year. All year last year, I had a gut feeling that Victor was going to be in San Antonio. It just made sense. It just felt like it was going to happen. This year, I don't have that gut feeling, but I do have kind of some intuition. I just feel like something's going to happen. So I wanted to share my picks with you guys, my predictions for this year's lottery. But I also want to hear your predictions. I read every single comment on the channel, so I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section. Share who you think is going to pick in the top 4 this year. And then also, I want you guys to manifest your favorite team landing that number 1 spot by commenting down below, manifesting the blank. So if you're a Blazers fan, for example, say Trailblazers. If you're a Hornets fan, say Hornets, the number 1 pick. So manifest that number 1 pick for your team. We didn't do this last year, and because of that, my gut feeling delivered Victor Wembanyama to San Antonio. This year, we're going to have you guys try and counteract some of my gut feeling with some of your manifestation down in that comment section. Again, this is just meant to be fun, purely good vibes, and let's jump into it here with the 2024 NBA Draft Lottery odds. So before I give my picks, I want to remind everyone a little bit of how the lottery works and also the odds for some of these teams. The two teams with the most likely odds to land the first overall pick this year are the Pistons and Wizards. Both have a 14% chance. The Charlotte Hornets and Portland Trailblazers have a 13.25% chance each because they tied the regular season record. The Spurs have a 10.5% chance to land the number 1 overall pick. And then the most important thing, remember, only the top 4 picks are done through the lottery. That's the most common misconception with the NBA Draft Lottery, so I wanted to remind you all on how that works. Now, one team that's very important to watch here, the Brooklyn Nets and the Toronto Raptors are both very essential to watch. The Nets lose their pick regardless, completely unprotected to Houston. So if that pick moves up into the top 4, the Houston Rockets would be working with the top 4 pick. The Rockets' own pick is also top 4 protected as well. So if the Rockets jump up from 12 all the way up into the top 4, they would have not only 1, but 2 lottery selections in this year's draft. And then for specifically the team named the Toronto Raptors, their pick, if it's 7 or below, will go to the San Antonio Spurs. So if a team between 7 and 14 jumps up into the top 4, that means San Antonio is going to be working with an extra draft pick here in the lottery as well. Those are some essential things to watch for on lottery night. Now let's get into some of my predictions. Who do I think is going to be picking number 4 overall in the 2024 NBA Draft? Now, I was looking into my crystal ball, trying to see who has the pick, see if I could tell the future a little bit. Just kidding. This is all gut feeling, remember. 4th overall, and I want you guys to comment down below right now who you think will have the 4th overall pick in this year's draft. The 4th overall pick, in my opinion, is going to be the Washington Wizards. Now, Wizards fans, I'm sorry. Some of you are going to be saying, no, why us? Okay, it could have been worse. You guys could have been picking 5th or 6th overall. I have you here at number 4, so I think you stay in the top 4. But my gut's just telling me you're not getting a top 1 or 2 pick in the first year of your rebuild and retooling without Bradley Beal, without Kristaps Porzingis. And even though I think Michael Winger and Will Dawkins have done a lot of really fantastic things there so far in Washington, I think this rebuild is really trending in the right direction. I don't know if the league's going to help you out a ton here, and I don't think the lottery is going to play its favor on the Washington Wizards just quite yet. Now, the 4th overall pick this year is still a good piece to build around with, and then maybe, just maybe, next year for Washington, they could find themselves in that number 1 pick conversation once again. with the opportunity to draft Cooper Flagg. There's a few others as well. Ace Bailey's a name to watch for sure. There's a ton of talent in the 2025 draft, which I've already started evaluating. I've had my eyes on these prospects for a long time already. So trust me, I know a lot about the 2025 draft upcoming. Wizards fans, your rebuild is not just centered on this year. So even if you land at pick number 4 or even lower in this year's draft, don't get too bummed out. Obviously, it'd be great to have the first overall pick. There's nothing wrong with that. But getting the 4th overall pick is definitely not a bad outcome, regardless for Washington, who is in the beginning stages of their rebuild with an opportunity to add more talent around Jordan Poole, who started to play very well at the end of the season. I think that's an underrated storyline going into next year, as well as obviously standout rookie Bilal Coulibaly. So the Wizards have a lot going for them. They have 2 picks in this year's draft in the first round. They have a very good opportunity to add more talent onto their roster. We'll see what Tristan Vucevic can continue to do going forward as well. I think that the Wizards are in a great spot moving forward. And thank God they don't have Bradley Beal on their roster anymore, right? Let's get into pick number 3. I want you guys to comment down below, who do you think will have the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft? Comment that down below right now as I preface to this part of the video. So remember, I have the Wizards picking number 4. What team do I see picking in the top 3 here? 3rd overall, I have the San Antonio Spurs. And Spurs fans, you guys know you can trust my gut. Last year, Victor Wembanyama, I predicted it all year long, saying it just felt like he was going to end up in San Antonio. I don't feel the same way about Alex Sarr. I really don't. I think it would be awesome to see him in San Antonio. They would have 2 elite front court players that have a lot of rim protection, size, length. They would be absolutely dominant together. I think the Spurs would be striking gold if they got the 1st overall pick this year with Sarr alongside Wembanyama, 2 talented 7-foot-plus players who could really provide havoc on both ends of the floor. Unfortunately, I just don't see that in the cards though this year for San Antonio. I expect them to be picking in the top 3, but I do not expect them to be number 1. Now, notably, this team did not have a top 4 odds coming into this lottery. So for me to predict them number 3, it means a team in the top 4 has for sure moved out of the top 4. We'll get to who that team is a little bit later. But here at this spot, the Spurs move into the top 3. I think this is a golden opportunity for them. Nikola Topic is a player that stands out. Zachary Sasher could be another answer for them. Ron Holland, I wouldn't even be mad at here for San Antonio, giving them a little bit more scoring gravity and punch around Wemby. Overall, I think the Spurs are in a great spot moving forward. They have a ton of draft picks, a ton of draft capital to work with. I really do think that they are trending in the direction of becoming a dynasty around Victor Wembanyama. It just is going to require a lot of things going right between now and then, but I think the Spurs have everything it needs to have in terms of moving their franchise forward in that positive direction towards winning not one, but multiple championships with Wembanyama at the center of attention. Pick number 2 in the 2024 NBA draft. Don't forget to comment down below. I want to hear who you guys think is going to have the 2nd overall pick. So far, I've had the Washington Wizards picking 4th, the San Antonio Spurs picking 3rd, and 2nd overall, I have the Detroit Pistons. Pistons fans, don't worry. I know in all my Tankathon lottery simulations, you guys have been falling down to number 5 here on the channel, and I know some Pistons fans are fed up with, hey, we don't want to pick 5th overall. We were the worst team in the league. We want to have a top 2, top 3 pick in this year's draft. Here you go. Top 2 pick. I have a feeling this is the year the Pistons stay in the top 2 despite a really bad record. They do not get the number 1 overall pick, but they're going to settle happily for the 2nd overall pick, where someone like Zachary Sasher can make a ton of sense. This also gives the Pistons a very good trade asset to work with if they decide to use the pick in that way to try and implement veteran talent around their already existing young core and young nucleus of talented players like Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren. Obviously, Marcus Sasser had some moments as well. The Pistons, I think, are a team that is laden with talent. Now it's about the coaching staff, specifically Monty Williams, finding ways to implement that talent together. Jaden Ivey was awesome when Cade Cunningham didn't play this year. Cade Cunningham was awesome most of the time regardless. I think finding a way to make those 2 guys fit and mesh together in a way that it's not just your turn, my turn, but turning it into a, hey, this is a really dynamic combination where Cade can get on or off the basketball and then Ivy can cut off of him, or look to run a pick and roll and maybe he can find find Cade Cunningham standing in the corner because teams aren't going to want to help off of the Pistons' best player. There's ways to make the spacing and the combination of talent here work in Detroit. Now, they do need to implement more shooting for sure. They just need more veteran talent. This team has been pretty talent deprived over the last few years, but I think they're trending in the right direction. Getting the second overall pick definitely bolsters their odds of really turning things around here in Detroit going forward. Then we get to the number 1 overall pick, and there's a few teams in here that have not shown up yet. Obviously, in the top 4, you have the Charlotte Hornets, the Portland Trail Blazers. Neither of those teams have shown up yet in my top 4, and there's only room for one of them. So who will it be? Is it going to be the Hornets? Is it going to be the Trailblazers? Could it be a team outside the top 5? Could it be someone like Toronto moving up from 6? Could it be Memphis jumping up from number 7? Could Utah make a rise into the number 1 overall pick? You never know with those Houston selections. Could they take a big jump forward? That's yet to be seen. But pick number 1 in the 2024 NBA draft, who do I have here? The answer is the Portland Trailblazers. I think Mike Schmidt, Joe Cronin and company there in Portland get rewarded with a really, really tough season by finally getting the number 1 overall pick again. Think back to Greg Oden as a recent example of Portland picking at the top. And listen, this year, unlike that year where Greg Oden was the surefire, no question, no brainer number 1 pick, obviously didn't work out that way. They passed on Kevin Durant. Since then, the Blazers have really paid for that decision with how Oden's career played out, even though he was really, really, really good when he played. Obviously, Kevin Durant, a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the 25, 30 best players to ever play the sport. The Blazers now have an opportunity to get number 1 pick back and get the number 1 pick right. And I think Alex Sarr would be an intriguing option for them, putting a dynamic big man who can protect the rim, guard out in space, also has the ability to knock down perimeter jump shots a bit, has a little bit of shot creation into his game as well, and obviously finesse finishing, touch around the rim. I think for Portland specifically, getting a talented big man like Alex Sarr who can be a hybrid 4-5 combination gives you a lot of versatility in your roster construction moving forward, but it also gives Scoot Henderson a really good outlet valve to work with in the half court. I think everything Portland does over the next couple of years should really focus and center around Scoot Henderson, who I do still think will become their best player on the roster. I think Scoot Henderson can still turn into and emerge into an all-star level guard, especially down the stretch of the season. We saw some real bright spots from his play. So I think Portland getting the first overall pick here, I just have that gut feeling, that little bit of intuition. It just feels like Portland's going to hold the number 1 pick here in the 2024 NBA draft. It's obviously a tough decision. I've talked about Sarr a ton in this video. It's not a no-brainer Alex Sarr first overall. I think there would be a lot of evaluation that still has to be done. I think Portland would weigh trading the pick down, maybe trying to pick up extra assets. They would look at every possible avenue here. But I think first overall, if they did stick and pick, Alex Sarr would likely be the outcome at this point in time. That's what all signs point to. And that's my top 4 here, guys. The top 4 in this year's draft for me: the Washington Wizards picking at number 4, the San Antonio Spurs picking at number 3, the Detroit Pistons stay in the top 4 this year finally and get the second overall pick, and then the Portland Trail Blazers hold the number 1 overall pick. Now, Charlotte Hornets fans are going to be upset at me. They're going to say, oh my gosh, he's hating. Remember, this is just purely good vibes. I went back and forth with where Charlotte felt like they were going to be picking. At one point, I had them 4th, and I was like, I just don't know. I don't feel like that's going to actually happen. And they ended up falling out of my top 4 in this prediction video. Remember, just purely good vibes. There's no insight, no insider information here. You know, Adam Silver didn't text me the script like I said earlier. So this is just meant to be fun. I want to hear who you guys have in the top 4 for your predictions. And if you predict it right, I probably will post it on Twitter. I'll probably share it on the community page here as well on YouTube. So make sure to comment that down below. Very, very excited for you guys to share your thoughts and let me know who you think is going to have a top 4 pick in this year's draft. Please do not forget to comment down below. I'm excited to hear everything you guys have to say, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.